Hey everybody, do you get tired of people talking about retirement and telling you all you need to do is just work for the next 40 years, save as much money as you possibly can, and in the end, you'll get to downsize your house, put on a pair of black socks and sandals, and take one cruise per year? If you're like I was, that just didn't really excite me at all. The simple, old school way of just saving money and not really enjoying life just didn't work for me. So what I did was create the Freedom Day Method. And on today's show, that's what we're gonna focus on.
All in you. Everything you're looking for, it's all in you. You gotta believe that it's all in you. Everything you're searching for, it's all in.
Welcome, my name is Jeff Kikel. I am the founder of the Freedom Day Method. And today we're gonna talk about the components of the Freedom Day Method and how you're gonna use those to get to your personal Freedom Day. What is Freedom Day? Freedom Day is your first day that you have a work optional lifestyle. It means you get up in the morning and you didn't actually have to get up and go to work that day. How are you gonna get there? Let me tell you first off, it's not gonna be easy. It's not a get rich quick scheme. There's no hack to it or anything like that. The difference is changing your mindset, changing the way we've traditionally done things in the financial planning industry. And I'm the first one to say we were wrong. The financial planning industry was largely created by a bunch of mutual fund firms, brokerage firms, and insurance companies. And they're the ones that did the training. Well, think of their motivation. Their motivation is to get you to save as much money as possible, amass large dollar amounts that they can then manage and make money off of. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is the strategy of just saving 10 or 15% and then amassing amount of money and then starting to take that out at what they tell you is 4 to maybe 5% per year ain't gonna work. It takes way too much time, it takes way too much money to get to that point. So what I want you to start thinking about, and this is what we focus on in the Freedom Day Method, is to stop thinking about amassing a ton of assets and start to focus on amassing assets that generate a cash flow. Now, that could be a multitude of different things, and that'll be the subject of another video down the road. Today, we're gonna focus on what are the components of the Freedom Day Method. So the first component of the Freedom Day Method is to establish a budget. Now, people tell you, oh, budgeting, I can't do that, that's just hard. It's hard to stick to a budget. The problem with this is you have to establish a budget so that you understand what you're spending money on. And we use that budget to get a very specific number, and that is your MRI, your minimum required income. You've got to know what that minimum required income is because that's going to be a component of figuring out when you actually reach your Freedom Day. So the next component is you're going to do your budget. You're going to figure out what your minimum required income is, what it takes to run your household. Not with savings, not anything else. We need to know what the minimum required income is to calculate this. Now we're going to start to have a little fun. We're going to have you build a bucket list. Why do we need to build a bucket list? Here's the problem that I've seen after almost 30 years of working with people, saving money, helping them get to retirement. We come in as financial planners, we build a financial plan, we have all kinds of crazy software that can calculate things out, and we use things like Monte Carlo analysis, which basically was developed by the gaming industry, to calculate the odds of you having a successful retirement. The problem is all that software is skewed towards building assets up, not building assets that generate a cash flow. So here's the challenge. We tell people, all right, here's your plan. This is all you have to do. Just follow the plan. You need to save as much money as you possibly can. And then in the end, the plan's gonna work. Problem is, life happens in the short run. You're competing with colleges for your kids. You're competing with Nike and Adidas and every toy possible that are taking money out of your pocket. And it's very difficult to stay disciplined for 40 years. So by building a bucket list, first you start to realize what are the most important things in your life. And we'll go over bucket lists on another video as well. But what I want you to understand today is we're going to use that bucket list to do what we call micro rewards. What are micro rewards? It's little things along the path that you're going to do to give yourself the ability to continue to keep that discipline up. The next step is that we're going to focus on retraining your brain. Because for many of you watching this, you are an employee of someone and you get paid a paycheck. So what your motivation is, I've got to do whatever it takes to get somebody to pay my paycheck. So I'm actually going to go to work and I'm going to work hard, and I may work a few extra hours so that I get a little bit more paycheck. Or if I'm a salesperson, I'm just going to work extra hard or make those extra calls, and then I'll be able to get a bigger paycheck. That's fine, and it's great because it's probably paying your bills. But what I'm trying to get you to do is retrain your brain and think of things from a different aspect. Because most of you are sitting there and saying, okay, yeah, the bucket list idea sounds great. I'll start doing things on my bucket list. And that may be, I'll put it on a credit card, or you know what? I'm just not gonna do that because I can't afford it. So I wanna start retraining your brain, and I want you to start retraining your brain to think in the form of not how am I gonna afford this, but what can I do to afford this? Now, that's a different way of looking at things. Not I can't afford it, but how can I afford it? Here's how. You want to start retraining your brain to think like a business owner. A business owner looks at life and says, okay, I need to buy this or do this or whatever. What can I do to make money to do this? I want to start teaching you to rethink what you're doing. Rethink how you get money. What can you do today to make money? A lot of the things that you can do are what I would consider active income. You could take another job. You could drive Uber. You could go deliver food. Those are easy things that you literally could do today and make $100, $200 very easily. Doesn't really take much to grow. Some other things you could do. You could use some specialized knowledge you have to consult with people. You could freelance a little bit. Maybe you have special skills around graphic arts. Maybe you have a hobby that you love to do photography and things like that. Those are things that you can do and sell that stuff to other people. Another way is if you have specialized knowledge, you can create a course. You can sell a course online that will give you income that's coming in. But there's lots of things that you can do right now today to make $100 very quickly. And that could easily fund an item on your bucket list. So you start retraining your brain. Now, one of the things that you want to look at doing, is there a way to make that a sustainable thing? Can you do that over and over again? So you might fill up a bucket list item or knock a bucket list item off, but if you can continue to keep that income coming in, now all of a sudden you've got extra income coming in on the side. And once you do it once, you'll start to think, I can keep doing this, I can keep doing this, I can keep doing this. This is awesome. Now, once you've knocked off a couple items on your bucket list with that income source you've created, the next thing we want to focus on is a debt snowball. So if you are still carrying debt, we need to get rid of that. Now, what do I mean by debt? Now, debt, it really comes in two types. You have debt that is good debt, which is things like mortgages. Sometimes I would say school loans would potentially be good debt to have because it does things to generate income for you. But that school debt should be paid off. You should be using your income or your active income to get rid of that, your extra active income to get rid of it. Bad debt, things like credit cards, car loans, consumer debt of any kind, those are things that you want to get rid of, and you will never ever be financially free if you owe people money. So you want to attack that the best way possible. And the best way I know to do that is with a debt snowball. What is a debt snowball? Basically, it is ranking your smallest debt to your largest debt. You just literally write those down. You figure out what the minimum required payments are for each of those things. And then with your budget and knowing what your minimum required income is, you can realign and actually take some of that retrain the brain income, that active income, and use that to go towards the smallest debt first. Once that's paid off, you take what you were using there, you apply it to the next one below that, and you just keep that going, and that begins to snowball, and you will pay off debt on a much, much faster basis than if you were just throwing money at it willy-nilly. There is another way of doing it. It's called the debt waterfall, which is to pay off the highest debt first, or the highest interest debt first. I'm not a big proponent of that way of doing it, for the simple fact that this is a psychological thing. When you start seeing those debts knock off and then they start to really accelerate, it makes you excited and it makes you want to focus on that more and more. And when you get out of debt, all of that income that you were applying towards that, you get to use for other purposes. Now, the next step in the process is we need to start reapplying some of that income. We've started to pay down debt. We might have completely gotten rid of debt at this point, but even if you haven't completely gotten rid of debt, you can start to refocus some of that active income that you're working on, your retrain the brain income, and you can use that to start to develop passive income. So what's the difference between passive income and active income? The biggest difference is active income requires you to be involved in doing it. What does that mean? That means it's going to be limited by the amount of time you have. The more that you have that is active income, you're just going to start running out of time and you're going to be limited with what you can do. But by buying assets that generate passive income or developing assets that generate passive income, you actually can multiply yourself. What do I mean by that? Maybe you create a course online. Now, that course, once you've created it, that was an active income thing at the beginning, so it took you time to create the course. Once the course is created, you don't have to recreate it over and over again. So you can then put that course out on the internet. You can sell that course multiple times, and if you do it right, that course is working for you all night long while you're sleeping. And it's working for you over and over again. Same thing with writing a book. Once you write the book, it takes a lot of time. And let me tell you, I've written 7. It takes a lot of time to write a book. Once it's done though, it's done. And you can sell that over and over again. And a lot of times you can write a book, build a course on that. So the book tells the story and explains things, but the course is going to take it that next step where it's like a done with you model of not only am I showing you, did I tell you about it in the book, but now I'm showing you how to do it and you're doing it side by side with me. Then you could look at other things that can generate income like that. A big one is real estate. That was one of the ways that got me to my freedom, was real estate. The other was building businesses. So I started a lot of businesses. I started 7 businesses. I sold 2 of them for a 7-figure exit, which gave me my freedom. That's a way to do it. So you can start a business. You can create an idea. Maybe there's a hobby you can turn into a business. It takes a little while. It takes a little bit of work to do, but you can do it, and you can actually build a business that can be sold later on or just simply generates a passive income. Because what I learned over my time was it took time for me to go from me being an active participant in the business to hiring a team of people that could run the business for me, and I could really be out there looking at new ideas of generating income without me having to be in the business every day running the business. The other way is you could buy a business. Maybe there's a business that's out there that you could buy or invest in and be a part in, but be a passive participant in that business. A great way to do this is through franchises. Franchises are built exactly for this purpose. They're designed to put you in the position of being successful right out of the gate. All the processes and procedures and SOPs and all that are already built. All you need to do is get in, get the ball rolling, and basically do the work. Hire a team that can do that for you, and you direct that business. So those are all ways of developing passive income. So now, step number 7 is Freedom Day. Your Freedom Day is that first day that you have a work optional lifestyle. So how do we know when that is? For Freedom Day, we need to have at least 125% of our income coming in passive income. Once we have 125% of our minimum required income, we now are at Freedom Day. You woke up that morning and you didn't actually have to go to work. It's a work optional lifestyle at this point, and you're done. Now, the question I get often is really that next step in this process. That next step is quit or no quit. The most often asked question I have is, do I quit my job at this point? What I tell you is, it depends. It really honestly depends on you and what you want to do. If you love your job, if you are just love getting up every morning and going to do your job, when you reach Freedom Day, it's a great day because you got up and went to work that day because you wanted to, not because you had to. That's a totally different attitude change. If you hate your job, you are going to be a horrible employee. You're actually not really going to want to go to work. When you're there, you're probably not going to be the happiest camper that's ever existed. So you need to really look at to quit or not to quit as to, do you enjoy your job? Do you love what you're doing? If you do not love what you're doing, get out, leave. It gives you the opportunity to go focus on your passive income sources. And notice I said sources, not source. There can be multitudes of different things. To this day, right now, I have about 17 different passive income sources, from businesses to real estate to courses that I sell to books that I've written. All of those are working for me when I'm not working and when I don't feel like it. I have a work optional lifestyle today because I literally can say, I don't feel like going to work today, or I'm going to work from home instead of going into the office, or I'm going to go ahead and take a vacation or a long weekend with my wife, or take off on Fridays instead of working anymore. That was one of my biggest goals. Was I used to work 70 hours a week and I didn't want to do that anymore. I realized that I wanted to get out of working 70-hour weeks. I had enough passive income. I reshuffled my schedule to where I work with clients only a few days a week. I take every Friday either off or I work half a day, and eventually I'll get to the point where I don't work Fridays at all anymore. But I have that choice. I have that option, and I've given that to myself. I have a work optional lifestyle. So that's the steps of Freedom Day and the Freedom Day method. Budget, figure out your MRI, build a bucket list, retrain your brain to, first off, play around with some of the things on your bucket list. 5, attack your debt and get rid of it using a snowball. Then start to use that money to buy and create passive income sources, assets that generate passive income. Then, once you reach 125% of your MRI, you are at your Freedom Day. You have a work optional lifestyle. And then you need to decide to quit or not to quit. And that even includes if you're a business owner. You may be looking at, all right, I don't really enjoy my business anymore and I want to sell it, I want to get out of it. This is your way out, is building up some of these other sources of income. So I hope this was helpful. Please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that little button that looks like a bell, because that tells you every time we put these up. And these episodes we put up on an irregular basis. We usually do 2 to 3 of these per week. For the next several weeks, we're going to be doing 1 per day. So make sure you put that notification button on so that you get this. And most importantly, and comment on this type of stuff. Let me know if you like this. If you don't, it's fine. I love to hear if you don't or you do like it. But that's the Freedom Day method, and I need you to start using these tools to get yourself to that next phase. There'll be lots more of these videos coming up, so make sure you keep your eye on the channel.